The Jewish Channel's Week in Review. Bibi and Barack get things going for Mideast diplomacy, and Iran heats up with missile tests. 1 year after the agri-processors raid, an ethical seal for kosher restaurants, Arab Americans tickle funny bones on Israel, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world in this webcast version of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. For the first time since taking office, President Barack Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu met in Washington this week. Observers were looking for signs that either of the two might shift from their stated positions on the Israeli-Arab conflict and Iran's potential development of nuclear weapons. The president twice invoked his call for a two-state solution.
It is, I believe, in the interest not only of the Palestinians, but also the Israelis and the United States and the international community to achieve a two-state solution in which Israelis and Palestinians are living side by side in peace and security.
Netanyahu, on the other hand, applied his own language to the idea of the Palestinians' future.
We want to make it clear that we don't want to govern the Palestinians. We want to live in peace with them. We want them to govern themselves, absent a handful of powers that could endanger the state of Israel.
For more on what was said about the Israeli-Palestinian issue, check out the television broadcast version of the Week in Review. Meantime, Iran hit front pages worldwide when it announced that it had successfully test-launched what is claimed to be its first solid-fuel missile, the Sigil-2. With a 1,200-mile range, it could potentially reach Israel. So, what's the response among American Jewish leaders to Obama's and Netanyahu's talks? New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg hosted his annual Jewish Heritage Night at Gracie Mansion. The by-invitation-only event featured a number of the community's leading lights, and to hear what they had to say, turn to the broadcast version of the Week in Review. With all the seriousness of these international negotiations, if there's anything the Jews are known for, it's in bringing humor to challenging situations. But what happens when the ones making jokes are Arabs? Christian Needon found out.
I've never really had a crowd that's predominantly Arab. I really like it, and I'm a little scared. Like, if I'm not funny, do not hurl any shoes at me, okay?
It's hot up here, man. It's nice and cool back there. They got the AC on. I don't know how y'all are doing this. I'm sweating like a Palestinian on a bar mitzvah up here. It's like,
I really believe that this could be the year that the Israelis and the Palestinians finally work things out. But I also believe that Matthew McConaughey is Oscar-worthy.
The lighter side of the Middle East was on display last week at Comics Comedy Club in New York City, where the 6th annual New York Arab American Comedy Festival tackled topics like Israeli-Arab relations and what it's like to be an Arab in America.
I am from Montreal, but I'm originally a Palestinian Muslim woman. Yeah, we never get that. Thanks for that. I wish I could do that at customs. Palestinians, woo!
For more on the Arab American Comedy Festival, including an interview with the festival's first Jewish performer, please view the broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Turning from how Jews should be treating Palestinians to how Jews should be treating their employees, Rebecca Honig-Friedman reports on one new ethical initiative.
A year after the raid on the agri-processor's kosher slaughterhouse in Iowa threw the public eye onto workers' rights violations in the kosher food industry, a new Orthodox social justice organization has launched the country's first ethical seal for kosher food establishments, making sure that the food is not just kosher, but is being prepared by workers who are treated fairly. After a year of hard work getting the seal, called the Tav HaYosher, Hebrew for the Upright Seal, in 7 New York City food establishments, volunteers for Uri L'Tzedek, the organization behind the seal, or Tav, stopped to celebrate the program's official launch with a party at Cafe Nana, the first restaurant to carry the seal. It was an opportunity to reflect on the accomplishments they'd made and the work still to be done to reach what co-founder Shmuley Yanklowitz deemed the seal's immediate goal.
To conquer all of Manhattan, to really create social change to the point where a restaurant has to have the Tav HaYosher in order to get kosher consumers.
The Tav HaYosher was conceived as a response to the agri-processors affair, when an immigration raid on the company's plant in Iowa led to numerous allegations of unlawful treatment of workers. In the wake of the raid, Uri L'Tzedek spearheaded a boycott of the company, but its founders were looking to do more than react to the standards of the food industry. They were inspired by an Israeli organization called B'Maglei Tzedek that bestows a seal called the Tav Chevrati, or social seal, to Israeli restaurants that treat their workers ethically.
And we thought that this is something that we could bring over here to America, specifically in New York City where we're based. It's a way of sort of broadcasting to the world that Judaism cares about its workers.
But is the Tav HaYosher actually ensuring ethical conduct? We have a statement from the rabbi who's led the push for living wages in Jewish businesses, and a response from one participating restaurant that may surprise you, in the broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. And finally, is the Netanyahu administration allowing new settlement construction to push ahead at the very same time as negotiations with the United States began? That's the claim of a story in Israeli newspaper Ma'ariv this past Monday. A translation of the story into English can be found at TJC's News Desk blog. The story claims a group of contractors was given a tour of Mosquiot in the Jordan Valley after receiving permits to build an additional 20 homes there. This would be the first new settlement construction in the area in decades. The settlement was initially authorized in the 1980s and then largely forgotten, but activity picked up when the Ariel Sharon administration was looking for a location to house displaced settlers from the Gaza withdrawal program in 2005. But international condemnation had again put the project on pause. Defense Minister Ehud Barak revived the plan in 2008. And though Ma'ariv claimed final approval had been granted to build there last week, the Jerusalem Post on Wednesday cited government sources and the Jordan Valley Regional Council denying those approvals had been given. However, officials did tell the Jerusalem Post that 6 new trailers are expected at the site before the end of the year. That's all for this week's webcast version of the Week in Review. For the full broadcast, including additional stories, interviews, and features, please stop by the Jewish Channel on cable. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel, please visit newsdesk.tjctv.com. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable, IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Channel 528, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.